Hello everyone and welcome to our topic. Today we will talk about the difficulties any assessor faces during PCI DSS assessment in the Middle East, which could be due to the regional challenges, the cultural differences, or even the internal and external compliance requirements. We'll go through two real-life stories to explore all of this, and after that, at the end, we will show you the path to the A+ assessment. I believe by now many of you already know me and Othman. I'm Towfek, the CEO of Ejabi InfoSec, and my colleague Othman is the VP of Technology. We both have different accreditation and certification in the field of compliance and information security management. Together, we started our company in 2020 as compliance and cybersecurity service provider with a vision to create a regional hub of excellence and innovation. In 2021, we were the first and the only QSA company in Iraq. Since then, we expanded our business to the UAE in 2020 and became the only local QSA in the country. Now let's focus on some of the challenges in Middle East assessment and start with the language barrier, which represents a challenge, a big challenge, during the handling PCI DSS assessment in the region, as most of the QSAs in the region are not Arabic speakers. Despite the challenges posed by the language, it's worth noting that there are less than 10 QSAs in the region, which is a small fraction of the global community of around 400 QSAs today. Also, our region is rapidly developing in the banking and financial sector as new technologies and payment system and services are required by the consumers and the merchants and keep changing dramatically. Yes. And to comply with the third parties with the regulatory standards and to reduce the risk of the illegal activities, a very strong due diligence measures needed, and to go through the AML and CTF compliance, for example, became more complicated and time-consuming, which making due diligence in Middle East even more complicated. And finally, a common issue arises when organizations assign budget to develop their payment systems, but still neglecting to allocate enough resources for their IS teams and cybersecurity practices.
Thank you. And to start talking about the culture, it's very important to know and understand that communication style and how people interact in the Middle East is very important. And that communication style is heavily influenced and affected by the culture itself, because it reflects how those people interact with each other in the local business and in the international business. Also, people tend to be cautious regarding sharing the information with each other, especially with people and organizations they are not familiar with. And this mistrust is towards the misuse and breach of privacy. Also, people used to follow a legacy rules and policies which they used to follow in their comfort zone. And the compliance program always bring new requirements that need to update and to change the behavior sometimes of the security and the flow of the work, which make people feel they are out of their comfort zone and they try to be resistant and cautious for changing. Also, perception of security is still fresh and immature. And this may sometimes lead that people in the company or organization may not digest and understand the intent of the requirement, which may lead to not protect against the overcome challenges and the threats. In addition to that, cyber attacks are increasing and getting worse day by day. And it's very surprising to still see some organization like the focus about training the people and make security awareness for them, which make the stakeholders, especially the C-levels, falls as a victim for the potential social engineering, phishing, and other malicious activities. Also, the hierarchy in the organization is not following the global stereotype. And it's very important to have well-structured organization, especially when it comes for the cybersecurity. Because we need to understand and know who is responsible for what in order to create a proper incident following plan, a proper defense strategy, and effective accountability. And in the Middle East, customizing the applications are very difficult because we have special local mandates that forces organization to customize their application while they have to still meet the international standards for compliance. And this customization affects the compliance program, so we always have to find the right mix between customization and compliance. Also, dealing with external parties like government, local authorities, service provider is not an easy job. So we have to understand the complexity and dependency to create an effective collaboration. And finally, resources is the most important thing when it comes to compliance project. When we talk about resource, we mention people, we mention IT infrastructure, financials, and distributing the compliance project over all these resources require a proper plan before starting the compliance project, not starting it, then plan it.
Yeah. And from the compliance perspective in Middle East, our countries are taking exceptional initiatives to protect cardholder data within their respective territories. And regulators like SEMA, NISA, Central Bank of Iraq, and in other countries are being serious in implementing different measures to cope with this. Adding to that, the geopolitical and economic instability often leads to dramatic changes in the laws and regulation in various regions. And the Middle East experienced its fair share of this, which certainly affected its legal and regulatory landscape. And finally, to follow the auditing and reporting standards in the region, and to handle the regional regulation with the cultural differences, need a tailored approach to avoid compliance programs not to collide.
Thank you. And to start talking about what happened in the Middle East, we will mention 2 case studies.
Yep.
And real life stories, let's say, that happened. The first one is about payment service provider who issued more than 7 million cards in the market and faced problems meeting their first PCI DSS compliant. And to start with that, we will mention the language barrier, which was a major concern for this payment service provider because all stakeholders, management, expert staff, they were Arabic-centric. Plus, the documentation and formals were also Arabic-centric, so it was hard for them to translate this document to English version or get the proper translation with the approval from the management. Also, because of the big size of the business, the interrelated operations, and the multiple business divisions, it was not an easy job for the entity to define their scope and set the PCI requirement boundaries in order to avoid that, let's say, creepy scope. Also, the payment service provider pursued to protect their cardholder data while their data center were in the cloud. And because of the data localization laws in the country, they had to bring this data center inside the geographical borders while they implementing the PCI DSS project, which was a very challenging issue. Plus of that, the infrastructure lacked many IT solutions that support the PCI requirements. So the payment service provider had to take a very serious procurement plan in order to resolve this problem. In addition to that, lack of awareness, as we said before, people in the region lacked of awareness of how implementing the security measures, how to interact with the requirements of the compliance program, which also made a challenge and time consumption problem in the project. And finally, the certification and recertification process for these PSP had faced some, let's say, political issues, and it's affected by political issues in a correct way because of the lockdowns, the demonstration, the instability. The certification process required longer time and cost consumption. The second real-life story is about one of the leading digital banks in the region. First of all, this digital bank brought a new technology that was rarely used in the market, which is container technology to host their digital bank. And because of the rare usage of that technology, it was hard for them to find the proper expert to administrate and operate this infrastructure. And bringing the digital bank over containerized environment, Met also had the, let's say, traditional infrastructure, which made the bank had to deal with two different infrastructure at the same time and bring two different solutions because there is, let's say, rarely to find a unified solution that can manage the two infrastructure at the same time. Also, because the bank had a unique environment and want to keep their service innovated and adding a new service, they had to agree with a multiple service provider, which put a pressure and a huge work on the legal department to prepare the proper agreement and the due diligence. Resource allocation is a common issue. As we said, the lack of expertise plus in these days, as you all know, there is lack of hardware. So these two common issues had made a very challenging issue facing the PCI DSS requirement. And also resistance for change. People used to follow the normal process when it came the PCI, and thanks for the council for bringing the standard, the guidelines, sorry, for the containerized environment. They had to adapt for new changes, so also there was some resistance. And finally, the hierarchy, managing these employees among this infrastructure was challenging, and especially making the big boss follow the badge policy.
Yeah. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, let us now take you on a journey on our winning path to achieve PCI DSS A+ assessment in the Middle East. As Arabic speakers, we know the language and the society of the region. And being a bilingual, it was easy for us to transfer the information of the standard and the requirement precisely and without misleading the client during the knowledge transfer. Also, there are many different rules and regulation in the region. So we put together a group of experts who look at these carefully and make sure that they are in line with the PCI DSS standard. So our customers were not only PCI DSS compliant, but also satisfying the local regulator. Cutting the cost is very important, and to cut our client cost, we followed a very precise schedule during the project and going timely through the assessment, which make our travel and accommodation cost as less as possible. Also, we set up a local agreement for support services, which make the cost even less. To get our client fully ready for the final assessment, we look at the pre-assessment readiness carefully. And as part of this approach, a mock audit's been carried out before the final assessment to find out and report the gaps and the problems to the client, to fix it and to achieve the desired A+ assessment. As one size does not fill all, especially in our region, we worked in a very specific approach to define the assessment scope for each client and each different environment. And this avoided to any scope creep during the whole assessment lifecycle. And to make sure our client IT infrastructure meets the PCI DSS requirements was not enough. We took it a step further on this, and we helped them to change the environment by advising them how to fine-tune the network, how to make the encryption protocols better, how to set the rules, and so on. So we helped them to redefine the IT infrastructure. And and we talked about the cultural sensitivity, and it was important for us to have a strong ties with the local stakeholders, as we are from the same region. Also, our business and technical team came from different cultural background from the region, so it was easy for them to communicate with the client clearly and effectively. Also, we conducted many workshops, training, and raise awareness. So we developed a team who was able to learn and teach our clients how to follow the best cybersecurity best practices and adopt it in their daily tasks. Compliance documentation. Okay, work paper is a must. And we love documentation. So we put a dedicated team to record documents in every step of the project, including the proof of controls, the incident plan documents, all other documents required. That made sure that everything was in the track and ease the final audits and reviews. Also, we helped our client to build strong contract and vendor management to make sure that vendors are delivering what is expected from them, and also to come up with agreement to how to handle data security and breaches. Okay, even though the PCI DSS was always the target, we keep getting the same question: how to get benefit from the PCI DSS with other standards and frameworks. So our team worked to combine PCI DSS standard with other standards and frameworks, and we come with cross framework, and this makes sure that our client not only to comply with PCI DSS, but also to globalize and unify their information security practices and the plans. And finally, we encouraged our clients to use the business as usual as a culture, and to put security in every step and every daily activity they do through a constant security check, every task they do daily.
And to sum up with some takeaways, we conclude in how to build the trust with organization, be part of their team, and mature the organization rather than just identifying non-compliance. Step-by-step approach to identify, isolate, institutionalize cybersecurity and compliance culture in the organization for the PCI DSS and other programs as well. And finally, assessment efficiencies can be built even with the worst challenging environment. Thank you all.
And we hope you enjoyed our session. Please scan the QR code and stay with us to learn more about the A+ assessment.
Thank you all.